Hi guys, Stuart Bingham here. Joe and Tom from Snooker Loopy podcast has asked me to do the chorus from the Snooker Loopy. That's our way. As you can see, I can do the Dennis Taylor and Willie Thorne version all in one go. I apologise firstly, but here goes. Snooker Loopy nuts are we, me and him and them and me. We'll show you what we can do with a load of balls and a snooker cue. Put the reds and screw back for the yellow, green, brown, blue, pink and black. Snooker Loopy nuts are we, we're all snooker loopy. Cheers guys.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the Snooker Loopy podcast. My name is Tom Mayhew and I'm joined, as always, by Joe, the Asset Hannard.
Well, a very good evening, Hazel. Good evening, everybody at home. And yes, I'm very excited today for our Q School preview, Tom. How have you been over the last week? Obviously, no snooker on the TV for the first time in a long time.
I've been losing my mind. I've not known what to watch. I've been watching reality TV shows instead, just to try and have something to watch. I mean, I should really seek out Dennis Taylor when he was on Strictly or something like that to mould those two fixes together. But yeah, I've been all right, mate. I've been not too bad. I've been really looking forward to this podcast and really looking forward to having a look at who's in Q School because I worked out this is the third time we've done this because we did it initially when we did the Crucible chats on my channel back in 2022. Then as part of this podcast, we did it last year. So it's kind of an annual event and it's... I think it's very this podcast, us kind of looking at really obscure random snooker players in far more detail than any other snooker podcast. No other snooker podcast will bring you names like Jason Tart or Koldesh Jahal or these people. So But I used the nickname The Asset. Apparently, according to snooker data Wikipedia or something like that, they listed it as Tony Knowles' nickname. I don't know if it actually is. It might have been
I've heard that one before.
Another Wikipedia edit, but that's why I used it because, of course, Tony Knowles is one of the names who's in Q School this year, so I thought it made sense. Yeah. Whether we pick him or not, I don't know, because for those of you who don't know, I mean, Joe, do you want to introduce what we usually do with Q School?
Yeah, we normally pick teams of 8 each because there's 8 tour cards on offer. I believe that is the same this year, Tom. So we will be selecting teams of 8. It'll be a bit like those old PE lessons where we've got all of the Q School entrants lined up and we go, right, I'll have you, I'll have you, I'll have you. But instead of it being based on how popular they are, it's based on how funny their name is or how old they are or just general memories that we've got of them. Then once all of Q School has happened, so in a couple of weeks' time, we'll come together and we'll basically round it up. And every match that they win, they'll get a point, and it'll sort of double the further on they get, a little bit like we do for the shootout if you've seen that. So last year, Tom, it was actually a resounding victory for you. You got 29 points, I got 26 overall.
Yes.
Alex Ursenbacher getting you a big 10 there. Robin Hull got 5 for you last year as well. Craig Steadman 4. Stephen Hallworth, Lincolnshire Sausage, he got 5 for you. But Andy Neck, unfortunately, only got 1 point. Jason Tart, though, got 2. So there you go. Whereas for me, it was only Andrew Higginson that did any decently for me. He got 10. I think it was a big 10 points if they got back onto tours, and then we sort of counted how many matches they won other than that. So yeah, really looking forward to seeing how we get on this year. Obviously some familiar names in there for long-time viewers and listeners of the podcast, but some new ones as well.
Well, one familiar name, of course, will be from the very first time we did this. I think it came about because Joe was picking a random name of someone who he'd never heard of to pick. And I think he accidentally at one point said Jason Kendrick. And then we went, oh no, it was Jensen Kendrick.
Yes.
And then Jensen Kendrick, of course, did qualify. And I mean, interestingly, he's had his tour card. He's back in Q School. So really, we're picking names for, who will have the next 2 years on their tour card. And it's 2 years since we last did that. But he's a very different player. It shows how much things change, because he's gone from someone no one heard of to he was one match from the Crucible, and many people would be saying he's probably a decent pick for this time, isn't he?
I definitely think so. He didn't exactly do a lot in those 2 years, but if you can get to Judgment Day, then and recently got to Judgment Day, so he's clearly in decent form. So Q School's a lottery. He's got through it before, so that always helps. And generally, we find with Q School, it is the players that have been on tour before that generally get on tour again, and that's perhaps an issue with the whole system. But we're not here to talk about that today. But for those of you that don't know, Q School is one of the ways that you can qualify for the main tour of World Snooker. So there's 2 events made up of, however many players. I don't know how many it is this year. 167 entries this year. And there are 8 tour cards. Basically, they'll play off until they reach what is known as the semi-final. So there'll be 4 players left in each event. And then, weirdly, they're the ones that win the tour cards. They don't play on anymore, so there's no winners of each event, but semi-finalists are the ones that get the tour cards. And then if you've won one in the first event, you obviously withdraw from the second event, and we whittle it down till we've got 8 players. So it's going to be exciting, I think. There are some golden oldies in there, but there's also some as young as 11 years old, Tom, that are on in this Q School draw. So I don't know whether we want to pick out a few, not necessarily for our teams, but just for players that you've spotted, maybe that you've known in the past. And I mean, one staring me right in the face here, Richard Pipe, aka Dick Pipe, who is a 59-year-old amateur player, was a pro 32 seasons ago in 1991, and well, I mean, he will be playing again. Obviously, he played last year, I believe. I certainly remember his name, but his last season as a pro was 1994. So that's some of the standard of player that we've got trying to get another tour card.
Well, I mean, we have him on the other end of the scale. This 11-year-old Adam Abbas, who we'll say his name now because he could be massive in the future. 10 years' time, he could be a world champion, and we'd look like we were ahead of the game. But he's 11, so I mean, he's either really good or he's got really rich parents.
Well, interestingly, he has played on Q Tour. He lost 3-1 in a match that he played earlier this year. I think he was ranked 81 on Q Tour this season. So he's clearly got some talent. Although, hasn't actually won many matches, according to snooker.org anyway, in 2024. I think only the one victory against Bekim Alou, who is... Oh, it doesn't say how old he is, so he could be a 90-year-old man for all we know.
With Ronnie Sullivan, mate. He's back.
Of
Ronnie
course,
Sullivan.
Ronnie Sullivan, yeah. That's going to be a cracker. We've got Vladislav Gradinari, of course, a player that we've both picked in the past, I think. We've got Gary Filtness in there, Dean Reynolds, who you talked about before, of course, snooker manager, famous Dean Reynolds, Tony Knowles, Rory McLeod in there, Gerard Green, Simon Bevs, some really cracking names, and I'm sure we'll go through. And maybe this time next year, we'll be talking about a certain Stephen Lee, perhaps on the Q School entry list.
We could be. I'm just gonna check if no sign of Alfie Lee. Alfie Lee is his son, and he's not attempting to qualify, which is quite a surprise for me. I was expecting his name to be.
He does normally, doesn't he? Yeah. But obviously, no Crafty Ken in there. Now, we haven't had any confirmation whether Ken's getting another Invitational Tour card. Same with Hendry, I guess. Hendry, there's been no confirmation of that. So, they're not a Q school. So unless they get an Invitational Tour card, they will be officially retired forever, I think.
Well, other names who have dropped off tour, and I mean one name who I think might be heading to retirement is Rod the Plod. He's dropped off tour.
Oh.
He's not in Q school, so it looks like he could be heading to retirement, or maybe he's taken a year off before a big comeback. I hope so, because we love Rod the Pod.
We do.
Rod the Plod on the pod.
Rod the Plod on the pod, yeah.
Yep. One day we will get Rod the Plod on the pod, and we can say to him, "Hello, Rod the Plod, you're on the pod," and we always say, "Rod the Plod on the pod," and now he's on the pod, and we can just keep saying that, and he'll probably.
And Tom
log off.
has lost the plot trying to talk about all of that, but another podcast sort of legend, Peter Devlin, of course, multiple Cue the Music entrant. He has entered once again. Of course, was a pro 3 years ago. Back in 2020, he got on the tour. So, lots of players that have had form. Mitchell Mann, former Crucible player. Mark Joyce, of course, who's fallen off the tour and is on Cameo, isn't he? Or is it Memo? Whatever he's on. Mark Joyce is on there, so he could well be a future Cue the Music entrant.
I don't
Luke
think he's
Simmons,
ever had
Snooker 19 legend.
I mean, Luke Simmons is a Snooker 19 legend, but I do think that Mark Joyce has never had an order on Cameo, so he might have some free time if he does drop off tour, which he has at the moment, so feel free to see if we can get him to do anything. We've got Chris Totten, also a player who was a rising star on Snooker 19.
Yes, of course.
And then dropped off tour, but he still has time to rise. He's only 25, we don't know. He could still be a legend of the game. We've got, I don't know how to pronounce this, Joe, Umut Dickme from Germany.
Yeah.
It's spelled Dickme.
Dickme.
Umut Dickme. No, thank you.
I beg your pardon. Him and Richard Pipe, that's going to be quite the matchup, isn't it?
I hope they play doubles together, very frankly.
Yeah. We've also got the most similar name award going to Halim Hussein and Hamim Hussein. So good luck to both of them.
I'm quite
and
sure,
good luck
Joe,
if they play each other.
Genuinely, they're brothers. I'm sure I've read it before that they're both brothers, which is, I mean, parenting. They know what they like and they've stuck with it.
Yeah, I think one of them was a typo, perhaps. Or who was the first baby? The first baby was Hamim Hussein. I think it was a typo because L is just before M, and they thought, oh God, well we'll have to name the next one the proper name, Hamim and Halim. But yes, that's quite a good one. Is Mustafa in there this year? I don't think Mustafa is, unfortunately. Sad times.
Here we go, Joe. An article from birminghamworld.uk, and it says, Hoosun Mia from Small Heath is looking to raise money for his sons Hamin and Halim, and they're 21 and 20, so they didn't waste time, popping them out, did they?
Well, yeah, there you go. But no, shall we get into thinking about some names in there, Tom? I'm looking at the oldest contestant of them all, Tony Knowles, who of course was playing at the World Seniors a couple of weeks ago. Turned pro for the first time in 1980. Of course, famously knocked out Steve Davis 10-2 in the first round of the World Championship 1982. And the last time he was a pro was back in 2000. How do you rate his chances?
I mean, the big question for me, Joe, is he's 57 years older than Adam Abbas, and I'm trying to work out which of them has a better chance. One of them is 11, so probably needs steps to reach the table. But I think I would fancy Abbas to beat Tony Knowles, which is bizarre, really. I mean, I do think with Tony, I worry he's going to spend all of his prize money on trying to get back on tour. When, really, mate, he's past retirement age now.
Yeah.
Should there be
He's
an
a
upper
pensioner.
age limit to this?
I mean, Fred Davis, of course, I think played at the Crucible at that sort of age. He was playing on into his 80s, I think. So, it's not. I mean, Jimmy White isn't that much younger than Tony Knowles. So, I think it's good to see him. And actually, he wins matches every year at Q School. So, I think while he's still doing that, I think it's fair enough. Obviously, we have got 3 other 60-plus players as well. We've got Dean Reynolds, who we talked about before, Gary Filtness as well, former World Seniors player. Of course, both former pros as well. And we've got Imran Puri, who I've never actually heard of, Imran. Last season as a pro was 1994. First season as a pro was 1994. So he had 1 year on the tour. Back in the 90s. He is 60 years old and he's given it another go, Tom.
They're the stories that they're highly unlikely, but they're the stories you want to root for, don't you? And I also want to root for this guy, Martin Shepherdson, who is 56. Yeah. He's never been pro, but he's still got that dream. He still is going, I'm going to turn up at Q School and try and finally turn pro. Imagine being a first-time pro at 56.
Yeah, I mean, it's amazing. And actually, we've got quite a few 50-somethings that are trying to become pro for the first time. We've got Philip Blackburn, we've got Gary Skipwith, and, of course, the legendary Simon Bevs.
I mean, not legendary for the right reasons, Joe. He's legendary because he's never, ever won a frame at Q School.
Now, another thing going in Tony Knowles' favour is that he's the only ranking event winner in this year's Q School, which we have had players before.
Was that a recent ranking event win, Joe? Was that recently?
Well, more recent than any of the other ones. And we do have 4 players that have previously made a maximum in the professional game. We've got Sean O'Sullivan, who did one quite recently. We've got Rory McLeod, Barry Pinches, and Andy Hicks. So that's an interesting statistic there, isn't it?
Yeah, well, I mean, strangely, Barry Pinches is one of those who seems to drop off tour, then come through Q School fairly regularly. Like he's just got. I mean, he's got a very smart snooker brain. He's never been a man who'd make 50 centuries in a season, but he's just good at what they call match play snooker. So really, like, I wouldn't be surprised to see one of Barry Pinches or Peter Lyons or Rory McLeod. Like, usually, I'd expect one of them to sort of at least get to a final, if not get back on tour.
You would think so, yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And in fact, we do have... Go on.
Gerard Green, mate, as well. I thought he'd retired. He seems to be back.
No, great to see Gerard Green back. And, I'm sure we'll pick out a few more that I like Gerard Green. But for those of you that have been following the World Snooker Tour recently, the following players dropped off the tour last season and are trying to get immediately back on. So we've got Ashley Hugel, who was world number 67, just missed out on the top 64. Andy Hicks, of course. Mark Joyce, who we've talked about. James Cahill, giant killer, apparently. Dylan Emery, Liam Highfield, who I rate really highly. So was a big shock to see him fall off the tour. Oliver Brown, who of course beat Rhiannon Evans in qualifying. Alan Taylor, who, I mean, he must have the record for the most Q School victories, I think. Jensen Kendrick, who we've talked about. Peng Yisong, Sean O'Sullivan, Andres Petrov, Ryan Thomason, Anton Kazakov, and Victor Sarkis, of which the biggest win percentage last season was Dylan Emery, who apparently won 50% of his matches last year. I almost don't believe that. Well,
no, but he was one who was very close to keeping his tour card. He was, I I mean, we can sort it by ranking, and it seems like he was 74. Ashley Hooker was 67. So you'd have to say, like, I think anyone generally ranked, between 64 and 75. So Ashley Hugill, Andy Hicks, Mark Joyce, James Cahill, Dylan Emery, and Liam Highfield, I think, pretty unlucky. Oh no, Liam Highfield was 82. Sorry, but generally,
82, yeah.
I would put him in with them as pretty unlucky to drop off, really.
I think Liam Highfield is a top 64 player, so I think he's going to be very, very tough to stop. It'll be interesting to see who gets him in their team, if at all either of us. But what is quite sad to see, Tom, is that there only seems to be one female player this year that has entered in Nguyen Yi. Certainly any that are ranked in the women's ranking. I don't think I can see any others in there. But that is a bit of a shame, really, isn't it?
No, yeah, she's the only one. Because the thing we're using the snooker.org page that tells us all the people who are qualifying, and when it says brackets A is amateur, and in brackets AF is amateur female, and she's the only female player trying to qualify, which is a shame. I'm a bit surprised not to see some other names having a go, but I suppose maybe they're hoping to still get on tour through their ranking on the women's ranking list. I think that's possibly how. I think Mink's dropping off, but it might get back on through that or something like that. Of course, the women's world champion is already going to be on tour, so. It's a bit surprising, and then ultimately, I suppose it comes from the fact that there's less money in the women's game, and realistically, I don't know the figures off the top of my head, but if you only get, say, $1,000 for being in the World Championship final, it's a lot of money to then stump up £800 to do Q School. Yeah,
absolutely. It is. It's a shame, they're not encouraging more entries, because actually 167 entries is not that many for Q School. I do feel it's on the lower side, especially considering how many are former pros that are in there. At least 30 players, maybe 40 players are former pros of that 160. So yeah, it's gonna be an interesting couple of weeks. Obviously, only 8 tour cards will become available, but of course, in events where there's not 128 players, they then sort of top it up off a Q School order of merit. So if you are the 9th best player at Q School, then you're probably playing quite a few events next season. And as we've seen in the past, I think Michael White, Michael Holt, players that have earned quite a bit of money as amateurs, Daniel Wells, of course, James Cahill, as well, earning lots of money as amateurs and getting themselves to the latter stages of events. So even if you don't get one of those coveted 8 Q School tour cards, you can, of course, still be playing on the pro circuit next season. But do you have anybody else that you want to pick out there, Tom?
Or just on that topic, I believe Daniel Wells, Michael White, James Cahill, David Lilly, they're 4 names I know who got those top-up cards and did well enough to actually get a tour card, whether it was either on the 1-year list or whether it was by, obviously, Cahill qualifying for the World Championship and stuff like that. It's a way that these players have, managed to take that top-up opportunity and actually get a tour card in the long run. So it's not all about who qualifies, but in terms of names, we should get to picking names, really, shouldn't we? Because otherwise, this is going to be the longest. Because I suppose at the start, before we recorded, we were like, this will be quite a short episode. There's been no regular snooker, but then I think me and Joe forgot how much we love to talk absolute snooker nonsense. This could be the snooker nonsense podcast, to be honest. But let's start with the names. Should we flip a coin to go first, Joe?
You know what, Tom? Since you won last year, I am going to give you the choice of whether you go first or second.
Well, I will go first. Always go first in these competitions.
And we use the ABBA format, so Tom will pick one, and then I'll pick two, and then he'll pick two until we're at the end.
I thought the ABBA format was whoever chooses Adam Abbas immediately wins.
No, that's the Abbas format. Easy mistake to make.
Well, I'm gonna go with someone who. I mean, logically, it makes sense to go with someone who's just dropped off tour because they're probably more used to the conditions, more used to playing, and actually they must be doing all right if they're, ranked 67 in the world. And for that reason, I'm going to go for Ashley Hugill.
Okay, so Hugill is the first player selected at this year's Q School. And do let us know in the comments as well who your team is and how you get on with it. I am going to stick to my guns and I'm going to go for Liam Highfield for my first pick. Again, just like you, I think picking players that have done well in the past is probably a good idea. That they're going to be the players that are the favourites there. And with that in mind, I'm also going to go for another of the big guns, Alan Taylor, for my second selection.
Okay, and then... So do I pick two now, right?
You get two, yeah.
Okay, well, I'm going to go for... Let's go with so many names. There's so many people I want to pick. But I'm going to go with Jensen Kendrick.
Okay. Kendrick has been selected.
And then I'm going to go with someone just because they got a fun name. I just think, what's a name we need on tour? I'll tell you what name we need on tour, Joe. We need Matthew Woodcock.
Matthew Woodcock, of course. Yeah, well...
He's 47, Joe.
He's 47, yeah. I used to have a teacher called Mr. Woodcock.
Was it Matthew Woodcock?
It wasn't. No, and also I don't think he's only 47. He was about 97 when he was teaching me. So
could it be his son?
Unless he's Benjamin Button. It could be. I'm gonna go for, just to keep on the on those vibes, shall we say. I am gonna go for Richard Pipe. I have to get Richard Pipe in there. If Dick Pipes wins, that would be a beautiful moment. It really would. I'm then gonna go for. Oh, there's so many good names in there, isn't there? Okay, I'm gonna go slightly more sensible, and I'm gonna go for our Lincolnshire sausage, Stephen Hallworth.
Oh, here's the big one. He's come out. The big one.
Two sausage-themed picks there.
Well, I'm going to... with my next two picks, Joe, I'm going to do something that's never been done before on our prediction contest. And I'm going to pick Barry Pinches.
Oh, okay.
And Luke Pinches.
Oh, father and son.
Mm-hmm.
Pinches and pinches.
It's a Pinches double.
Wow. Luke Pinches. I'm going to go for... On a similar sort of theme, I'm going to go for Halim and Hamim Hussein.
Can you imagine if they played each other in the final?
Yeah, it would be a cracker, wouldn't it? Okay, now then, you've got 3 picks left.
Oh, and they go so quick. They go so quick. Oh, well, I have... Oh, I mean... Dylan Emery.
Ooh. Okay.
And...
And another?
Oh, who else should I go for? Let's also go for... Oh, I almost said Simon Bevs then. That would have been madness. No sign of Jason Tart. I miss him. I miss Jason Tart.
Yeah.
Wish you were here, Jason. Let's also go with Aristos Pampouris.
Okay, Aristos Pampouris, 23-year-old.
From England, I presume English/Greek.
Well, he might have married a Greekman.
He might have married a Greekman, yeah? What? What? Probably his dad, not him, because unless his name was like Dave, and because he married a Greek person, he went, I'm going to change my first name to Aristos.
Oh, yeah, cracker. It's a cracker.
Aristos Pampouris, 4.
Okay, so I've got my final 2 picks here. Oh, this is tough. I'm going to go Florian Nussel. I think that's how you say it.
Good pick.
But,
Good pick.
I think definitely got potential.
This young Austrian sensation.
This young Chinese-Austrian sensation. And then, I mean, we've got Michael Collum. We've got Neil Jones, from sublime names to ridiculous names. We've got Paul Scoff, who likes to think himself of a... Oh, he's Austrian. He's a young Austrian sensation as well. Ricky Powell. Ooh, I've just seen Rory McLeod. Ooh. You know what? I'm going to go for Wang Yukin. Former pro, 2016, and was born a month before me.
That's fair enough, mate. I wonder who was born closest to me then. Maybe I would do that for some symmetry. So 90. Mitchell Mann was born the same month as me.
Ooh.
And he probably wouldn't be a bad bet. So maybe I should go for if I was going by that system, I'd go for Mitchell Mann. But I'm very tempted by Stephen Wardropper.
I was very tempted as well.
I like the name Wardropper. It's good. There's 2 Latvian players. Artemis Zizins. I mean,
is that who you're going for?
No. He sounds like he should be in Eurovision, not in. Like, I hope you qualify, mate. But you could also represent Latvia in Eurovision. I've decided. But let's. I'm not going to go Mitchell Mann. I'm going to go with a man who I think he's got through Q School more than anyone else. So technically, this would be the best bet. So we'll see how that goes. But I think I've read he's got through Q School 4 times, and that's Craig Steadman.
Oh, very good. A very steady selection there, Tom. So just to recap your picks, you've went for Ashley Hugel, Jensen Kendrick, Matthew Woodcock, Barry Pinches, Luke Pinches, Dylan Emery, Aristos Pampouris, and Craig Steadman. I do have to say, Tom, I think you've got some very solid selections in there. I'm not entirely sure I've done my best selections.
Mate, there's nothing more solid than a Woodcock.
Yeah. Well, I would say a Dick Pipe is probably more solid, but mind you, he is 59, so perhaps not so solid anymore. But Highfield Liam Highfield is leading my team.
If you're listening, Richard Pipe, please do let us know. Are you as solid as you used to be?
Alan Taylor is also in there. Richard Pipe, Stephen Hallworth, Hamim Hussain, Florian Nussel, and Wang Yukin completes my lineup. And we will find out in a couple of weeks, folks, whether Tom retains his title or whether we come roaring back. Goodspeed's Angels, we're going to call them. Goodspeed's Angels. There we go. They're ready to fly.
I fancy we'll at least get... I think between us we'll get at least 4 right, I'm going to say.
You reckon? Wow.
I reckon we know.
Last year we got 2 between us, so we're going to double that this year.
Well, I think there were less silly names this time that distracted us. I think last year...
Andy Neck and Jason Tart last year.
Jason Tart, Andy Neck. I think I went for Barbar
Ronnie Sullivan.
Or something.
You went for Mustafa as well.
Yeah, exactly. So
and I've still won.
Well, it's all because of it's the Andy Neck effect. He has that influence. Him and Jason Tart. They just ultimate team. No
Robin Hull this year. Interestingly, Alan Taylor gets his Q School 1 up against underway against Ronnie Sullivan. So that'll be an interesting match.
I love the fact we've... I don't know about you, but I chose the names without even looking at the draw. So
yeah.
Literally, I could have chosen players who would just all play each other in the first round and it would completely cancel each other out.
Yeah. Well, go on then. Shall I just double check your players? So Ashley Hugel, he will be playing Stuart Watson or Joel Connolly and Deville in the first round. Jensen Kendrick will be playing Shaw or E. Jones in the first round. Woodcock, who's he going to be playing? Was it? It was Matthew Woodcock, wasn't it? Matthew Woodcock. He is playing Alex Klensor and Vladislav Gradinari in the second one. Now Barry Pinches, he is going to be playing Gradinari or Mohammed in the first round. Luke Pinches, on the other hand, he's going to be playing Filtness or Montreux. Dylan Emery will be playing Alice Martin Berris. If I'd seen some of these names, I think I would have been going for them.
Martin Berris?
Pampouris. He's playing Puri, so Imran Puri is playing Aristos Pampouris. And then he's playing Simon Bedford, who I believe was in World Snooker 2005. So that's an interesting couple of matches for Pampouris. And then your final player, Craig Steadman, he is going to be playing Stephen Wardropper in the first round. There you go. And Nigel Clark in his second Q School match. So there you go, Tom. You're safe for this year.
I mean, that's amazing because I was choosing between Steadman and Wardropper, and that could blow up in my face immediately. So we'll see.
Checking some of mine. Alan Taylor. He's going to be playing Ronnie Sullivan, as I'd said. Alan Taylor could also be playing Woodcock. If Woodcock beats Gradinari, Alan Taylor could be playing Woodcock in his first round, which is interesting. Florian Nussel, he'll be playing Gary Milne. We'll go on then. Let's have a look at the Hussein brothers. So Halim Hussein will be playing Cian Dennett. And Hamim Hussein will be playing Stevens or Bradley Jones. Or Billy Castle in the second round, which is interesting one. How's the Lincolnshire Sausage going to get on? Oh, he's playing Gerard Green in the first match. That's a cracker of an opener for him. Dick Pipe. Let's see how he's doing. Dick Pipe, he's playing Fergal Quinn. And Wang Yukin, he is playing Paul Scope and Andres Petrov. So some very, very big matches early on in that. But those are our teams. So do let us know down in the comment section who your teams are, and keep an eye on them, because it will be streamed on YouTube this time, won't it? Or at least one table will be, so you'll be able to keep an eye on all of the action at Q School this year.
Just quickly, Joe, because we don't tend to cover the Asian and Oceania section of Q School, because you can't laugh at the names without it looking more dodgy, to be honest. But also the fact that there's far less pros who enter, so it's far harder for us to judge. There's only 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 former pros trying to qualify from that section. They're Hamza Akbar, Sunny Akani, Luo Honghao, Gao Yang, and Himanshu Jain or something. That's those 5. So it'd be nice to see Sunny Akani, Honghao, and a few of those maybe get on tour. No one else really standing out for me. Anyone there standing out for you?
No. I mean, most of them don't even have a date of birth, so it's very, very difficult to judge, isn't it? But yeah, I mean, the oldest player there is Fung Kwok Wai, who is 46 years old, which is a far cry from Tony Knowles, isn't it? But yeah, as you say, should be interesting. Sunny Akani, we know he's a great player, so you'd almost expect him to come through that, but he always gets shocks on the Asian tour. So who knows, Tom, how that will go.
Personally, I'm going to root for Wallace Wong.
Wallace Wong.
What a name that is.
That's a cracker. But yeah, let us know in the comments what you think. Oh, of course, get in touch with us via our email address, snookerloopypodcast@gmail.com. And I think it's actually a perfect time, Tom, to read out a couple of our fan mail. We've got some fan mail, Tom. What can I say?
Some fan email.
Yeah. I love it. It's a cracker. So, yeah, I want to talk to you about Lars Johansson, who has been commenting as well on the new channel. And, yeah, he sent us an email last Friday. He said, "Good evening, Hazel. Joe, Tom, okay, boys. I'll be the first one to admit, when I first found your podcast about a year ago, I was wondering, what the hell is this garbage?"
Thanks, mate. Oh, thanks for writing in, Lars. Yeah, I really appreciate it. It really means a lot. That's what we're looking for, people to describe our podcast as garbage. It's nice to know. You really connected.
He said, "No disrespect meant, just being honest. But I came from a world of Dave Hendon and Talking Snooker, so my snooker podcast perspective was something else. Even so, I decided to hang in there, get through the archives, and as you release new stuff, listen to that. And now I'm a full convert. You two are quickly becoming my favourite snooker lads. Poignant analysis, funny anecdotes, cue the music, cue the laughter, all solid contributions. And with daily updates during the Worlds, I'm sold. Hook, line and sinker. Look forward to seeing what your YouTube channel can do. I salute you both. Love the improvements. Keep up the good work." So thank you very much, Lars, from Canada. So Cliff Thorburn country. And he did send up a follow-up email. I think he possibly predicted what you would react like, Tom, and said, sorry guys, feel bad using garbage. Maybe instead a more appropriate way to word it is, what the hell is this weird stuff I'm listening to? We'll definitely give you that. It is weird. But that's not our fault. That is just the weird world of snooker that we seem to keep finding weird stuff. That said, hope you guys can focus on and remember the good part of my last email. Proper fan over here. Looking forward to a long walk with your last session review episode. Good night from Sweden. So he is in Sweden. Yeah, that's where I am currently and where I was born, but I do live in Canada normally. So thank you very much for getting in touch, Lars. And
I hope every time he emails, he's in a different country.
He'll be able to do his own cue the music Eurovision very, very soon with all of that. But yeah, we also had an email from Paul, who you've heard of from other mediums as well. Paul Banks, who is a bit of a graphics designer, so there might be more to come from that. He is a big fan of the podcast, and he does like a lot of the silly ideas that we have, so there could be more to come from that. So I know a few of you over on Twitter have been asking for the Good Evening Hazel merch, and maybe there'll be something in the works. We're not making any big promises yet, but things are in motion, and we're really excited. We've seen some of the ideas behind it, and oh my god, it is so good. So thank you very much to Paul Banks for getting in touch with us. We really do appreciate it. And yeah, as I say, if you do want to get in touch, then do find us at the email address below, snookerloopypodcast@gmail.com, or find us on Twitter at snookerloopypod.
Perfect. That's absolutely fantastic summary. And yeah, we are really looking forward to, I mean, even if no one else buys the merch, I'm going to buy it for myself. I can just tell. Like,
I mean, there's some cracking ones we've got lined up for you, and many, many more as well. So do please let us know anything that you want, because we do have the ability to make anything, really, don't we? So so do let us know if there's anything silly that you want to own. We will see what we can do. I love, Tom, that in some sort of parallel universe in the future, in 80 years or so, there's going to be a Snooker Loopy podcast that is doing Cue the Laughter, and they'll be looking at our T-shirts and mugs and stuff, saying, what on earth was this? Why have we got a mug with "Come on Daddy" on it?
that'll be for the Snooker Loopy Extra, I think, that particular mug there, Joe.
Yes, quite.
I'm looking forward to it, mate. I mean, speaking of that section, it seems like the perfect route for us to dive into Cue the Laughter, Joe, and I believe that you have brought something this week.
I have, actually. This was an old Christmas present of mine, Cue the Laughter, this week. And, I mean, there seemed to be a big series of these things, but one of the things that I got was this thing here. It is a little book called The Greatest Moments of Snooker, and it's by Ian Welsh, featuring 22 of classic moments of snooker. So this was released, I think, circa 2006, 2007. We will have a little look, but I remember bringing this in as my reading book for school. So that was my reading book, and it's got some lovely little things in there. It sort of starts with the very, very old matches, like 1940, the legendary Joe Davis and his younger brother Fred. Try and sort of show that on camera there.
Joe, can we go back to how old were you when you had this as your reading book?
Well, I mean, I should say I was in year 4, so this must have been I must have been about 9 or 10.
So everyone else has got like Diary of a Wimpy Kid or Captain Underpants or maybe the early Harry Potters.
Yeah.
And you're there reading about snooker matches from the 80s.
Yeah, absolutely. And, well, there you go. There's a picture of good old Joe Davis and his younger brother Fred, which, of course, you can replay that match on World Snooker Championship 2004. Just to read you some of it in there. When Joe Davis won the 1940 World Championship, he stretched his unbeaten run to 14 successive years. That year's tournament also made history by needing the first ever deciding frame in the history of the event. Joe enjoyed a period of domination in the sport that has been unrivaled since, although his brother Fred did dominate the 1950s to a lesser degree. There you go. But yeah, that was cool. It then went on to do Ray Reardon's fourth world title back in 1976. So we've got good old Dracula there. It's seen several players dominate the tournament. Joe Davis in the 20s and 30s, Davis in the 50s, Pullman in the 60s, but the 1970s belonged to Ray Reardon. He won the title on 6 occasions, the first in 1970. He was born in 1932 in the Welsh village of Tredegar, I don't know. And his first job on leaving school at the age of 14 was in the local coal mines. So, I was just completely enthralled by this, Tom, and looking at all these pictures. And we've got good old Terry in 1979, Terry Griffiths with Dennis Taylor without the glasses there. A very rare sight indeed of Dennis Taylor without his classic upside down glasses. But
I believe that village, Joe, is the same village where founder of the NHS, Nye Bevan, was born and grew up.
All right, okay. Wow.
A little bit of trivia there for you. So
there you go. And then, of course, I mean, the main bit of the book. Page 30, we've got Dennis Taylor versus Steve Davis. 1817, 1935. It was 1985, Joe. And, it's got a nice little blurb about the 85 final. It's even got a nice picture of him holding up his cue aloft in the air, and I just have great memories of reading this book. We've got Joe Johnson in there, so 150 to 1 outsider, and I do remember a particular line, Tom. So it does go all the way up to Ding Junhui winning the UK Championship, Graham Dott and Peter Ebdon longest frame. So 2006 was the last page in there. But I do have a particular memory, Tom, of 9-year-old me being rather traumatised at a certain part of this. And it was Paul Hunter in a particular final that he won in the Masters. And he did mention, so I don't know if you remember a particular interview with Paul Hunter back in 2001, but
I'm looking forward to this, Joe.
Go on. Do you have any memories of what that might be?
I believe it was something along the lines of them saying, "What did you do during the interval to improve your form in that session?" And he said that him and his girlfriend of the time were just bonking in the changing rooms.
Well, there you go. So so this is about his match with Fergal O'Brien, apparently. So of all players, there you go.
Who I always think of when I mention the word bonking.
So it said, in the final itself, O'Brien narrowly claimed the first 2 frames before Hunter got off the mark, but then went on to win the next 5 to establish a 5-1 lead. Each player then won another frame apiece to go at the interval, with the Irishman leading 6-2. Hunter's manager suggested that he try Plan B, which stood for bonk. But the Yorkshireman wasn't in the mood. In quotations, sex was the last thing on my mind, he later explained, but I had to do something to break the tension. It was a quick session, around 10 minutes or so, but I felt great afterwards. Girlfriend Lindsay jumped in the bath, I had a kip, and then played like a dream.
A quick session?
Yeah, there wasn't a mid-session interval in that one, but there you go, Tom. I just remember that being very traumatising for 9-year-old Joe.
Well, what did 9-year-old... Did you ask the teacher? Did you ask your parents? What?
I don't think I asked anybody. I just sort of worked it out myself. But yeah. There you go.
The idea of you getting in trouble and the teacher's saying to your parents, "Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. and Mrs. Hannard, but Joe's been in trouble for bringing in an X-rated snooker book."
yeah, this would be in Snooker Extra, wouldn't it? But some cracking bits of stuff in here. You got the fastest 147. You've got Jimmy White and Stephen Hendry decide and frame. You've got John Parrott's whitewash at the Crucible in 1992. Just really nice. Some different moments in there to what you would normally get, and there was a whole series of these. You had the greatest moments of boxing, greatest moments of football, greatest moments of Grand Prix racing, and greatest moments of rugby. So if you are interested, there are plenty of things, and I do believe there was a DVD that went along with it as well. Not sure I've ever watched the DVD, but they do have one with it. I've got it somewhere in the house, but yeah, I thought I'd bring it along today, Tom. Just something from my past.
Or did the teachers or the students say anything about your snooker book?
I remember the teacher saying something. They knew I liked snooker, and I do remember them sort of say, yes, they're Dennis Taylor with the old lifting up the cue. I do remember that. But I don't remember any of the fellow students saying anything about it.
That's fair enough. That is a great pick, mate. I think that was fantastic. I really enjoyed... I love hearing about little Joe and his snooker adventures. That should be a regular section, I think, of the podcast. And I'm sorry that your first awareness of adult activities was through a snooker book you read when you were 9 years old.
Never mind the birds and the bees, just Paul Hunter and his quick session in the bath for 10 minutes.
I believe, Joe, this episode we also have a special Cue the Music that's coming up.
We do have a very special Cue the Music, and you might remember if you were listening either last podcast or the podcast before, we read out a message from Chris Reed, who is one of our regular listeners, got in touch via the email address, and he said he's a big fan of the podcast and thought the content over the World Championship was really excellent, and he did record himself singing Snooker Loopy for us to review. He said the Geordie is put on, so don't judge too hard. Hope you enjoy, and I'm sure we will do. Those of you that are perhaps new to the content, the podcast, Cue the Music is our regular section where we'll review a bit of snooker themed music. It could be Stephen Hendry dressed up as rubbish on The Masked Singer, but it could be just something as simple as Joe Johnson releasing Everlasting Love, on CD, and we'll basically give
CD.
it a...
It's not on CD, Joe, and we're furious.
On vinyl. Or we get random snooker players to sing Snooker Loopy on Cameo, and something more recently, Tom, is lots of fans have been getting in touch, giving us their versions of Snooker Loopy. And yeah, it's going to become a bit unmanageable, all these versions of Snooker Loopy, but we'll give it a go.
We're at the very least, I don't think we've got enough songs probably for the next 50 episodes at this rate. So,
oh dear. Yeah, so we're still here for the next 50 episodes or so, but I've got it up, Tom. I don't know about you.
So how many versions have we had of this so far?
Oof. Let's count. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 14 versions of Snooker Loopy. We've nearly got a top 16, Tom.
I mean, strangely, the one at the bottom is one that was actually released again on vinyl. So there we go. Right, I've got this downloaded, Joe. Have you listened to this yet?
I've not listened to it, no.
Alright, here we go then, lads. Snooker Loopy nuts are we, me and him and them and me. We'll show you what we can do with a load of balls and a snooker cue. Pop the red and screw back for the yellow, green, brown, blue, pink and black. Snooker Loopy nuts are we, we're all snooker loopy. Snooker Loopy nuts are we, him and them and you and me. We'll show you what we can do with a load of balls and a snooker cue. Put the red and screw back for the yellow, green, brown, blue, pink and black. Snooker Loopy nuts are we, we're all snooker loopy. Oh, it's a cracker, it's a cracker. Cheers, guys.
Oh, Tom, what monster have we created here? People are now writing their own songs and lyrics to this whole thing. Oh, thank you very much, Chris. By the way, that was an incredible surprise where the sort of orchestra come in halfway through. It was quite brilliant. It really was.
It was a cracker.
It truly was. It truly was. But I'm worried,
good.
Tom. I'm worried where this is going to lead.
I'm so excited about that. That was amazing.
That was amazing. I have to say, very good Geordie accent for the most part. I think had you not said that it was put on, I think we would have just thought, he's a Geordie. So there you go.
I genuinely thought it was Gary Wilson.
It did sound a bit like Gary Wilson, didn't it? But then Gary Wilson can't play the piano like that, I don't think. But that was brilliant. That was absolutely brilliant, Chris. So thank you very much for spending the time to presumably learn that on the piano. I don't think you just had that in your repertoire. I mean, correct us if I'm wrong, but yeah, that was brilliant, Chris. So thank you very much for that. And this is going to be very, very difficult to rate, I think.
I think it's easy to rate, mate.
Oh. Go on, I'm going to get in there before you. I'm giving it a 10.
I'm giving it a 10. I think easy, giving it a 10. I thought that was fantastic. It was like Gary Wilson playing the piano at his snooker club and singing Snooker Loopy.
Yeah, absolutely brilliant. And thank you for just putting so much effort into it. And that's not to take away from what anybody else has produced, because they've all been brilliant. But, to add in that musical talent there. I mean, it's another thing for our Snooker Loopy album, isn't it, Tom? I mean, this is we're going to have an album of Snooker Loopy versions at this rate.
What he did, he was very clever, actually, because if it started with the piano,
yeah,
I would just go, okay, it's Snooker Loopy, but it's got the piano. But because he started it a cappella, and then the piano comes in, I was generally going like, I just thought
we were both shocked. We were both shocked.
It was amazing.
It was, yeah. No, thank you very much for that. That puts him at level
12 points
with Snooker Loopy by the Matchroom Mob, deservedly so, and Everlasting Love by John Virgo brackets Joe Hannard. Which
every episode you say that, and we both go, we should remove it, and we don't remove it, and it's always there.
You know what, Tom? The time has come. I've removed it. It's gone. And it now means that you are officially into equal first position. You come second because Snooker Loopy, the Matchroom Mob, of course, did it first, so they get to be on top. But it goes above the Mark Selby song by a Brian Class at third place, and the World Final 2024 rap by K. Dot in at number 4.
I'm going to listen to it again. I need to play it again. That's not
It's
what we
going to be a
usually
brilliant
do, but-
intro, isn't it?
Oh, it's so good. Like, if anyone, and we will say to the other people, we're not, well, I hope we're not doing a disservice to the other people, because they were all very, very good, but I just think the adding of a different instrument is what sets it apart. But there is scope if people want to collab, and they can all do their own versions with you all doing it with the piano or with the guitar or something. Just
Yeah. Oh, it was brilliant. So thank you very much to Chris for that. You know, we really do appreciate the time that you've put into that. That is fabulous. So thank you very much. And yeah, as we say, if you want to get in touch, do please get in touch via the email address or follow us on Twitter. You know, we've got the new Snooker Loopy podcast Twitter that you can get in touch on as well, and we've had people already saying good morning Hazel or whatever over there, so thank you very much for that, and do keep the support coming.
I don't know what to say, Joe. I feel very strange. I feel like we've had a submission for the podcast that is better than anything we've ever created.
Yes, until we do our versions of Snooker Loopy, Tom.
Can you play anything? I can't play anything.
I can't play anything.
Oh, I'm going to have to hire someone to
play snooker.
Is yours going to be you singing while playing?
Oh, Tom, come on. Spoiler alert.
You're going to pot the red and then go, pot the red as you do it.
Oh, he's got it. He's got it in one. How did he manage that? I'll have to think of something else now. Drat.
Yeah, drat. Drat and double drat. There we go. But yeah, Joe, I mean, amazing episode. This has been great. I've loved it. And if anyone else wants to send in, I mean, you doing anything, it could be Snooker Loopy, but if you've got anything else snooker related, we should open it up to that, because within that we have had people doing impressions of Phil Yates and of JV and Dennis. So if you've got anything else that is,
and also feel free. It doesn't have to be a version of Snooker Loopy. It could be a version of the snooker song, or it could be a version of Man's Long Pot or the Mark Selby snooker song. It could be anything.
Not the Romford rap.
It could be, because it could beat the Romford rap. It could.
It could easily beat the Romford rap.
Yeah. Or 147. That's my idea of heaven. Come on, hurricane.
If you can do that song with a piano behind it, mate, just a really like do 147 and do all like the Mariah Carey.
I mean, that was your best ever Alex Higgins impression. That was brilliant.
And that was Alex Higgins, where he can barely speak in his later days, sadly.
Poor Alex. But no, thank you very much, Chris. We do appreciate it.
There we are, Joe. Shall we wrap up the pod there?
Let's wrap it up there.
Fantastic. Let us know, obviously, in the comments or by email or on Twitter, who you think will go through Q School. Who are your picks? Who are you rooting for? Are there any stories behind people and that's why you're rooting for them? Maybe you once went, clubbing with Dick Pipe back in the 80s. I don't know. Let us know. I don't even know how old he'd be then. Probably fine. So please do. I mean, even though you would never believe his ID, in a club you'd go, no, mate, you're not called Richard Pipe.
Yeah.
But yeah, please do let us know, and do email us about pretty much anything. Let us know if there's any merch ideas. We've got some in the Richard pipeline, as it were.
Yay!
So please do let us know, or if you've got anything else you want to write in. And also, you can email, and if you don't want us to read it out, you can say at the bottom, please don't read this out. We've not read out every email anyway as it is, but generally, if you're someone who wants to get in touch but goes, oh, I feel a bit anxious about being included, don't worry, we don't have to read it out. You can just send us an email going, I like the pod, cheers, please don't read it out. That's lovely, either way. So, yeah, and anything else, Joe, that you'd like to say?
No, just enjoy Q School over the next couple of weeks, and we will be back either next week or the week after to discuss it, or something else completely random, knowing us.
Fantastic. Catch you guys soon, and please do, like the video, share it with anyone else you know who might enjoy it, because the community is growing and it's really nice, and there's more and more people getting on board. And I mean, I'm genuinely, like we've said it before, but like we're a small snooker podcast, and snooker's already quite a small community as it is. But we're like, we've probably got most episodes, I'd estimate, across platforms, a couple of hundred listeners. But the fact we've had so many people getting in touch and interacting is genuinely the kind of thing that makes my year, frankly. That I can feel it growing and feeling more people supporting it, and sort of you encourage us just by interacting and by sending stuff in. That properly makes our day, doesn't it, Joe?
Yeah, absolutely. And I couldn't say it better myself, really, in terms of how it makes us feel. Between us, we've got over 30,000 subscribers on YouTube on our various different platforms, and I don't think I've ever had this much interaction with viewers. So do keep that coming. For something so small and so niche to get this much of a community following, we really do appreciate it. And of course, we're both the type of people that even when this does hopefully get a little bit bigger, and we have maybe even hundreds of people getting in touch, we're the type of people that'll still be reading those out every single week. So because we are crazy like that, and we've always been people to reply to comments on YouTube and read all of them. And I know not everybody out there is like that, so we really do appreciate it, and we want to put time into thanking everybody for that as well. And hopefully, with the merchandise, we can all sort of be on the Snooker Loopy brand when we go to snooker events and out and about. That would be really good.
Absolutely. I'm really looking forward to it. And yeah, I think that's all we got to say. Enjoy Q School. You can follow it along and let us know how it's going. Enjoy Q School. Enjoy seeing who makes the tour. And we will see you within a week or two for more absolute silliness, or garbage if you prefer.